Good Friday morning, everyone, and welcome into today's daily Bible reading for April the 14th. Today, we are reading together in Numbers chapter 6, which is going to detail to us the instructions concerning the Nazirite vow, and also it'll give us, at the very end of the text, a short blessing that was to be pronounced by Aaron and his sons upon Israel as they are beginning or moving more quickly towards starting out in their march toward the promised land. Thanks so much for taking the time to read along with me today. Hope that your week is going well. And let's wrap up the work week today with a good read here in Numbers chapter 6. Numbers chapter 6, verse number 1 concerning the Nazirite vow. Number 6, verse number 1, Yahweh instructed Moses, "Speak to the Israelites and tell them, when a man or woman makes a special vow, a Nazirite vow, to consecrate himself to Yahweh, he is to abstain from wine and beer. He must not drink vinegar made from wine or from beer. He must not drink any grape juice or eat fresh grapes or raisins. He is not to eat anything produced by the grapevine from seeds to skin during the period of his consecration. You must not cut his hair throughout the time of his vow or consecration. He may be holy until the time is completed, during which he consecrates himself to Yahweh. He is to let the hair on his head or the hair of his head grow long. He is not to go near a dead body during the time he consecrates himself to Yahweh. He is not to defile himself for his father or mother or his brother or sister when they die, while the mark of consecration to his God is on his head. He is holy to Yahweh during the time of consecration. If someone suddenly dies near him, defiling his consecrated head, he must shave his head on the day of his purification. He is to shave it on the 7th day. On the 8th day, he is to bring 2 turtle doves or 2 young pigeons to the priest at the entrance to the tent of meeting. The priest is to offer one as a sin offering and the other as a burnt offering, to make atonement on behalf of the Nazirite, since he incurred guilt because of the corpse. On that day, he is to consecrate his head again. He is to rededicate his time of consecration to Yahweh and to bring a year-old male lamb as a guilt offering. But do not count the initial period of consecration, because it became defiled. This is the law of the Nazirite. On the day his time of consecration is completed, he is to be brought to the entrance to the tent of meeting. He is to present an offering to Yahweh of 1 unblemished year-old male lamb as a burnt offering, 1 unblemished year-old female lamb as a sin offering, and 1 unblemished ram as a fellowship offering, along with their grain offerings and drink offerings, and a basket of unleavened cakes made from flour mixed with oil, and unleavened wafers coated with oil. The priest is to present these before Yahweh and sacrifice the Nazirite sin offering and burnt offering. He will also offer the ram as a fellowship sacrifice to Yahweh, together with the basket of unleavened bread. Then the priest will offer the accompanying grain offering and drink offering. The Nazirite is to shave his consecrated head at the entrance to the tent of meeting. Take the hair from his head and put it on the fire under the fellowship sacrifice. The priest is to take the boiled shoulder from the ram, 1 unleavened cake from the basket, and 1 unleavened wafer, and put them into the hands of the Nazirite after he has shaved his consecrated head. The priest is to present them as a presentation offering before Yahweh. It is a holy portion for the priest in addition to the breast of the presentation offering and the thigh of the contribution. After that, the Nazirite may drink wine. These are the instructions, excuse me, about the Nazirite who vows his offering to Yahweh for his consecration. In addition to whatever else he can afford, he must fulfill whatever vow he makes in keeping with the instructions for his consecration. Verse 22, Yahweh spoke to Moses, "Tell Aaron and his sons, this is how you are to bless the Israelites. You should say to them, may Yahweh bless you and protect you. May Yahweh make his face shine on you and be gracious to you. May Yahweh look with favor on you and give you peace. In this way, they will pronounce my name over the Israelites, and I will bless them." That is Numbers chapter 6. All right, so in these instructions concerning the Nazirite vow, this is described here as a special vow There were a number of vows that we have even seen some in the text where people would offer vows to Yahweh that if you will do this, then this will be my response to your blessing. That was a common thing within Israel. But this is described here as a special vow. So it's something that was not just your common vow. This was something that, as we read through the text, makes someone especially holy, specifically and especially consecrated to Yahweh. This was an opportunity for them to separate themselves to Yahweh, to be especially holy for this particular set of time. This was a special period of dedication to Yahweh. These standards of holiness were extremely high. Some have even compared it to the holiness standards that were to be observed by the high priest. It is interesting to note that this was something that could be done by men or women. I know the gender language throughout is the his pronouns and such, but it is good to note here that this could be done by a man or a woman. This was something that was to be done voluntarily, that somebody could voluntarily take on for themselves to do, or as in the case of Samson, his parents dedicated to him, dedicated him to Yahweh as a Nazirite. Some even speculate that that was also what happened with Samuel concerning Hannah and her dedication of Samuel if Yahweh would give her a son. Some speculate that maybe Paul also took on a Nazirite vow in the latter chapters of the book of Acts. Even more speculate that John the Baptist and James, the brother of Jesus, were also those who had undertaken Nazirite vows. Now, it was very rare for these to be lifelong vows, although that was something that did happen. More so, this was for a very specific period of time. One quote that I appreciated that I think gave a good description of the Nazirites is from Wenham. He says the Nazirites were the monks and nuns of ancient Israel, laymen and women who consecrated themselves to the total service of God, usually for a specific period of time, though rarely for life. So that's a good, I think, good summation of what a Nazirite vow was. Now, as far as the specifics go, they were to abstain from wine or beer. They were not even to have vinegar made from these things. They were not to eat anything that was produced by the grapevine, from seeds to skins, nothing of that nature. So nothing of the vine was to be drunk or eaten by them. They were to not cut their hair. Their hair was given to them as a gift from God, kind of be some of the underlying meaning behind this. And later on, after the period of the vow is over, they're actually going to cut their hair and offer it in the fire as a sacrifice to Yahweh, giving it back to Yahweh. He or she was not to go around a dead body. In doing so, they would be defiled and the consecration would be disrupted. Now, just how serious did God take this particular vow? Well, beginning in verse number 9, we see, well, what would happen if there was an unintentional breaking of the vow? What happens if suddenly someone dies near you? You're over to eat at your family's house, and a family member has a heart attack or chokes on food and dies right there in front of you as a Nazirite. Well, if that happens, that's just really tough luck, the way the text presents it to us, that if that happens, then you have to go through the purification process because you've been defiled, and a defiled person could not be seen as someone participating in a holy vow such as the Nazirite vow. So they would have to go through the process of purification, and once they do that, then they would have to restart the time. You don't get time served. I don't think that's really the best way for me to say that, but the time that you've already dedicated to Yahweh as a Nazirite, it's as if it didn't happen. You have to restart. You have to start from zero, start from scratch, and rededicate the entire time once again. Now, once the Nazirite vow is completed, beginning in verse 13, there's even more that you have to do. You have to offer a number of sacrifices, a sacrifice of a burnt offering, of a sin offering, of a fellowship offering, in addition to grain and drink offerings. There were 3 total animals that had to be sacrificed on your behalf for you to present yourself before Yahweh. So even though these individuals that were undertaking the Nazirite vow were to be the holiest of the holy, they still had to offer additional sacrifices in order to come before the presence of Yahweh, which just goes to show how holy God is, that they had to continue to offer these sacrifices in order to present themselves before Yahweh. So they would do that. They would go before the Lord to offer these sacrifices. They would shave their head. They would put that into the fire. Verse 19, they would take the meat, and the priest in this instance would get additional servings of the sacrifices than they normally would. I believe they normally would get the thigh, but in this instance, they would also get a piece of the breast. Again, just showing the giving of oneself to Yahweh. Again, the priest representing Yahweh. Here is this Nazarite giving himself or herself to Yahweh in the greatest ways possible. So finally, verse 21 is another summary. These are the instructions about the Nazarites who vow his offering to Yahweh for his consecration, in addition to whatever else he can afford. So there's even more than what is listed here that they would have had to offer up to God, and other things that they would have had to go through. Again, giving this vow, dedicating themselves for a special time to Yahweh. So the Nazarite vow, very serious, very important. And it was, I would think it would be appropriate to view this as a very honorable thing to do in the sight of Yahweh. Now, the chapter here in chapter 6 closes up with the priestly blessing that would be given to the people. Specifically here, it makes sense because they are preparing. Remember, they're in this 50-day time frame before they begin their march toward the promised land. So here's a blessing to accompany them as they do march toward the promised land. The priest, one of their jobs was to offer blessings upon the people. I think I read earlier that there were daily blessings that would be pronounced upon the people on behalf of Yahweh, just to fill them with peace and confidence and understanding that God certainly was with them. I really appreciate this text. Again, one of my favorite texts in all of Scripture. I believe a blessing that we would be very, very, we would do very well to even repeat this ourselves. I think to share these wonderful words other people especially as they're going through difficult circumstances. I mean, what a blessing it would be to hear from someone, may Yahweh bless you and protect you, make his face shine on you, be gracious to you, look with favor on you, and give you peace. I mean, these are just the most comforting and peace-giving words that can be offered. Even some Psalms play upon these words. In Psalm 67 and Psalm 121 seem to allude to these words pretty strongly. But I want to note too that there is a crescendo that is really built into this blessing. In each of the lines, there's three specific lines. Verse 24, 25, and 26 are each different lines. They each grow in length. And there is this crescendo building to the end, but the focus of the blessing by far is on the reality that Yahweh is doing these things. May Yahweh bless you and keep you or protect you. May Yahweh make his face shine on you and be gracious to you. May Yahweh look with favor on you and give you peace. In this way, they will pronounce my name over the Israelites, and I will bless them. The blessing is to lead them toward the blessing of shalom. And that's what's mentioned at the end there. May he give you peace. May he give you shalom. May there be peace and unity and fellowship between you and your God. And that's what God's desiring here. God is desiring to have fellowship with his people. And when that fellowship is a reality, certainly there is nothing better that we can experience in this world than to know that we have fellowship with our God. And what a beautiful blessing this is. I encourage you, if you're not familiar with this blessing, to meditate upon it and incorporate it as much as you can into your lives, whether that be sharing this with other people or using it as a point in your prayers. I think that would be appropriate as well. I might even see if there's some songs that might incorporate this as well. I think this would be a great material to incorporate into songs. I appreciate you tuning into this reading on this Friday. If you have any questions about what we find here in Numbers chapter 6, please feel free to leave those in the comment section. Once we get later on into the Judges book here in a few months, we'll certainly revisit the Nazarite vow that Samson, I don't know if I can exactly say tried to keep. Seems as if he was trying to break it as much as he could, but we'll address that later on in a few months once we get into the Judges cycle. Tomorrow we're going to be reading about the offerings from the leaders. It's a very long chapter, I think like 89 verses, something like that. So it'll be a long read. It's going to be a lot of repetition within the text, but we will soldier through it. We'll get the read done and have a couple of comments from what we find here in the text tomorrow, reading together in Numbers chapter 7. Hope you can tune in then. Hope you have a great rest of your Friday. If you haven't reached out, I encourage you to reach out and congratulate Seth on his graduation from the police academy today. Very proud of him and appreciate his service to whichever community he will find himself serving here in the near future. Again, thanks for tuning in today. Have a great day, everyone. Take care and God bless.